Hey everybody, so it's dinner time, and one of the things I'm making for dinner tonight is some fried goat cheese. I've got all my ingredients out here to make the breading, and I've got my goat cheese in the freezer to kind of harden it so that it's easier to chop. I made my own goat cheese, but if you go to the store, you just get, like, you know, one of those logs you see. I believe they're chevre usually. Tonight what I'm using is ricotta, which has goat ricotta has a similar flavor but not quite as strong, but still should be really good. Alright, let me show you how to do this. First we add 1 cup of plain Panko breadcrumbs. You can use the other kind in a pinch if you like, but these are the best. First you add to your 1 cup of Panko breadcrumbs 2 teaspoons of dried parsley, 1 teaspoon of thyme, half a teaspoon of granulated garlic, half a teaspoon of ground white pepper. Since I made my own homemade cheese and it's pretty light on the salt, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, but you can go ahead and add a pinch of salt if you've bought it at the store. And that's our ingredients. We just mix that up. We also need to have a couple of other bowls with dipping things. We're going to want 1 bowl that has 2 beaten eggs, so 2 beaten eggs in 1 bowl, and the other bowl is going to contain 1/2 cup of flour. I just have unbleached all-purpose flour that I'm going to be using. You use whatever you want. It's an all-purpose flour. That's what this recipe calls for. Okay, so there's my eggs. I'm going to get the 1/2 cup of flour. And there's the 1/2 cup of flour. Here's my cheese. I did not have it in the freezer for long. Now, if you want to clean off your knife in between cuts, it would make it a little easier because it's going to get a little cheesed up. I don't have paper towels, but you could just wet down with some cold water a paper towel. I'm going to use a rag because it's one of the ways I save money. I don't buy paper towels. I just use up my rags all the time, constantly clean them. Okay, so you're going to want to slice it. It's about 1/2 inch thick. Do it whatever way you want, but I want to have, I'm squishing mine down because I want it, I want it to look like a little miniature, like a patty, like a salmon patty. Have you ever made salmon patties before? It kind of reminds me of that. It's about as thick as my finger, okay? So I'm going to first cover it in flour. You may want to freeze your cheese longer. It makes it easier to work with, but I'm gotta get dinner now. So first coat it in flour, then quickly coat it in egg. It's a messy job. My eggs are very yellow because they're fresh from my chickens. Alright, and then get the breadcrumbs all over. If it falls apart, that's okay, it's cheese. Oh, one step I forgot to tell you is, because I forgot to do it as well. So you need a cookie sheet with wax paper all over it to set it down. It would make it easier. I'm just going to use this plate since I forgot this step. But having a cookie sheet to lay out your patties would make this process quicker. So you want your oil hot. I just put olive oil in there. I think I want a little more. You're going to want to space your bowls of cheese a bit so as not to have soggy cheese. It should immediately sizzle around the edges when you put it in there. Cook them until they're light brown, or golden brown on each side. I'll show you in a second. Okay, these are the ones I just pulled out of the pan. It looks darker on film than it actually is on these two. There. That's lighter. Well, that's not lighter. But it actually looks really good. I'm touching the food, I know. It bugs some of you. But they're clean hands. I wash them constantly. And I just wanted to show you this. I don't typically touch everybody's food. Alright. See? So it's nice and crunchy on the outside. And oh, it's just so yummy. I don't even know how to say it. It's so yummy. Mmm. Hear that crunch? That's the crunch on the outside. And then the inside is just delicious. If anything, I would say add a tiny bit more salt if you're making your homemade cheese that I show you how to do. Only a tiny bit more, like maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon more than I did. Or you could do a half. Half probably wouldn't be overdoing it, but you can play with it. You can always sprinkle it. Alright, so that is it. Thanks for watching. Bye.